Occasionally I have the problem in deciding what ship to take out and fly. Today I felt like flying the Macarial, but at the same time I also felt like flying the Megatron, so in the end I have decided to fly both of them. I guess that solves that little problem. Now, both of these ships is built in a very similar way. I use both of them primarily as DPS only, however the Macarial sometimes has the passive shield tank, and sometimes it also has a cloaking device, so the Macarial is definitely the unique ship here. Now, I have been asked to compare the Megatron and Macarial side by side, and I will do that right away. Now, the Macarial is a faction ship, a faction battleship, while the Megatron Striker is a normal battleship. However, the ships are actually very similar in how you can fly them. Where is the Megatron? There it is. Okay, add to comparison, and let's quickly take a look. Now the module layout is very similar. The Macarial has one extra high slot, the Megatron has 7 high slots, but it has a siege mode which gives plus 100% DPS. Now the Macarial is more of a big cruiser. It's fast, it has very good DPS. The DPS is actually comparable, although the difference is in the range. The Macarial definitely has the advantage in the hit and run because of the warp speed. Now I believe the Megatron has the advantage in the raw DPS because of the siege mode, and if you land close to the target you can unload about 15,000 DPS on the target, which is honestly a lot. And of course, as we already know, the Macarial is the faster one here. The capacity difference is quite significant. Of course, the Angel Battleship doesn't have a good capacitor, while the Megatron has a pretty decent capacitor. And of course, the biggest difference is definitely the price. Now, I got my Megatron for 1.55 billion. I did show you the ship price last time. Now, the Macarial became a lot cheaper for some reason. I did expect the price for the ship to go up, but that did not happen. The opposite happened. Currently, you have 3 of them available, 1.4 billion, 1.5 billion, so that is a pretty fair price, I would say. The Macarial is at 2.49 billion, which honestly is pretty cheap for this thing. After all, the Macarial is currently one of the best low-sec battleships for PvP. It can also be used for missions, but the Macarial is primarily a PvP ship. However, it can also be used in low-sec and null-sec for anomalies. Now, as it currently stands, my skills for the Macarial are a little bit better. Mostly because I already have high skills for this thing. Now there are some things that I have to improve. I would like to get at least 4000 cold DPS on this thing, and in order to do that I might have to upgrade the core, but you know how I'm active in upgrading cores. It takes a while. Now as for the Megatron Striker, let me quickly go and take a look at this ship. The current DPS will be different. I think currently I have the barraging plant installed, so the DPS on this thing will be significantly higher, 4.5 thousand DPS. So okay, I believe I docked with siege mode, and as you can see, the build is basically the same. Now I thought about using the clocking device on the Megatron, and well, in the end I thought to myself, well, I already have one on the Macarial, and the Macarial has a very special place for me, so I would be very sad if the Macarial dies. But this ship, well, is freshly bought, and I got this ship to kind of replace the Macarial in some cases. Of course, the Macarial cannot be replaced that easily, but I got this ship to ease the weight that I have on the Macarial, and so far this thing does get the job done. And of course I might increase the nanocore, because why not? I want more DPS out of this thing. Now, last time I talked about the implants a little bit, and I still did not buy the high power coil, mostly because it's too expensive, and if I buy the high protocol, I will have to level it up, and currently I don't feel like leveling any implant up, so I'll just keep on using the thermal circulation. As for the DPS, well, I think it's about the same, unless one of my skills has been completed. Basically, before I go and launch the Megatron into combat, I try to charge up the implant to 72, because that way I can get extra 50% DPS for a short amount of time, and this thing can have very, very high DPS. Now the high protocol is 4.5 billion, and that is honestly expensive. I know you might be asking me, well, look, you have 20 billion in your wallet at the moment, you can buy the implant and level it up. Yeah, I can, but I kind of want to save my ISK for new ships, and I still get a pretty good damage boost from the thermal circulation. It should be about 10,000 when all quad magnetic stabs are active. Yeah, it should be 10,000. And it is 10,000. Okay, this is, you know, pretty good DPS. Basically, a sawed-off shotgun. That's how I feel like. That's how I feel when I fly this thing. I feel like I have a shotgun installed. So that's basically what the Megatron Striker is, and I'm happy with the DPS. Can be improved, can be increased, working on it. And this will be basically the difference between the Macarial and Megatron Striker. Of course, the Macarial with its excellent warp speed and of course its agility and speed can be used in low sec without a problem, and it feels like a cruiser, while this does feel like an actual battleship because it's actually a lot slower. And I even thought about installing a hyperspatial rig just to make it warp faster, so I still have to decide on a lot of things on this little boat. But in any case, I'm definitely looking forward to see what this monster can bring, and definitely looking forward to see what's its maximum possible DPS going to look like. And well, with that being said, I think it will be time to undock these two monsters, and let's see what type of kills we get today. So the first target for today will be a Vindicator. Now I'm currently alone, completely solo, because most of my friends are sleeping or they are at work, and I don't want to ping them for a Vindicator, so I am in warp.
Warp drive active.
And well, let's see what happens. Now hopefully I land close. When I run this ship solo, I take 3 scramblers instead of triple webs, because a lot of ships have stabs nowadays. Maybe I should move to maybe I should move to Mimitar or Amar space. There is a lot less stabs over there and a lot less competition. But I kind of don't feel like moving 300 billion ISK of ships over there, so let's see what happens with this Vindicator. They have 2 medium drones, looks like they are in armor. Okay, that's interesting. I landed right at the edge. Hopefully I get to scramble them. Okay, Vindicator has been scrambled. Did not have enough time to charge up the implant, so I guess I'll just have to run like this. Vindicator is into hull, I am into 55% shield. Okay, Vindicator in 50% hull.
Shield damaged.
I am at 10% shield. I am now into armor, and Vindicator got destroyed. Oh, okay, nice. Let's loot and let's warp out. I didn't want to use the siege mode. I felt like it was unnecessary and I was moving. One lesson that you have to learn while flying this ship: don't use siege even if you're moving 10 meters per second, because it will ruin your tracking. And you definitely do not want to miss the target for 6 seconds. Those 6 seconds can be very, very crucial and very important. Okay, let me check out the kill. 4.8 billion, not bad. Ironically, I was actually looking to buy blasters, and looks like I got blasters for free. So yeah, I guess I'm not going to have to waste ISK on the market for blasters. Mostly for the Hyperion, because I was rebuilding the Hyperion. After all, I already have the nanocore for it, so might as well use it. Let's take a closer look at the Vindicator. Well, this Vindicator definitely had a lot of DPS. You could notice that they had a lot of DPS. They did go through my shield very quickly, and good choice that I took triple Scrammers. They had triple Warp Core stabs. Now, here we have 3 targets, and I'm not talking about my friends. My friends are not targets, they're friends, and let's just let's just avoid any confusion. Now, the 3 targets are 2 Succubus and 1 Macarial, and they're all 3 of them are inside of a storyline mission. I think it's Sweet Poison 2, so it's a very serious storyline, and I can expect those ships to definitely to fight back. Now you might be wondering, why are you shooting at the station? Well, all 3 of us, well 4 of us, or actually 3 of us, are charging the implant so that we have maximum possible DPS when we land. My implant is charged. My friends use high power coil, I believe, not really sure. Perhaps all of them are using the thermal implant. Again, I have no idea. I use the thermal one, and my implant has been fully charged. Now, the 3 targets are very cautious, and it looks like one of them has a scanner. So, if they scan, they might notice that there is something funny going on at the station. Why are there 4 battleships? There should be 4 battleships. I think one of our ships is still on the way to arrive. Okay, we will slowly prepare to align towards the mission location. Now, usually, like I mentioned many times before, you are not going to find that many pirates in Mimimater space or Amar space. Most of the pirates, like 95%, are located in Calderi and Galente, and not really sure why that's the case, but that's just what I have noticed. And if you want to run storylines in peace without being bothered by pirates, then go towards Mimimater and Amar space. I believe Mimimater space is the most quiet one, and I believe that's because not many players actually want to fight the Angel elites. The Mimimater storylines are one of the most difficult ones, I believe. But at the same time, if it means that you can run the mission without being disturbed, then I guess that's one way to do it. So, someone scanned in the system, and looks like they have left the mission location. Well then, a little bit later, and we have 3 of these ships. Now we have 2 Vindicators, and I am in the Megatron Striker, and there is 1 Abaddon. A very, very lovely combination, and all of us are now charging the implant at the station. You gotta feel bad for the stations, because they're now being used to charge implants, and they have to be shot at almost constantly. Kind of hilarious. Okay, now I'm ready. I am at 72 hit, and I just collided with my friend there. A very lovely ship combination indeed. I did say this before, but when I was a kid, the Megatron hull was my favorite. I really loved how this thing looked, and even to this day, like, I don't know, 20 years later, I still like how this thing looks. The whole design of this is one of the best in the game, if you ask me. One of the best looking battleships in the game. one of the most menacing looking one as well. Well, we are waiting here. We are waiting for the moment to go and align. Now, Planet 4 will be the align point so that we can all warp at the same time. That's basically how to align all ships to warp at the same time. I believe we all should have about the same warp speed. And it looks like they are returning. Okay. Which means it's about time to eat. Now the primary target will be the Macarial because it's a faction battleship and that's basically what we're after. The secondary targets are going to be the small boats. We all have a lot of webs.
Fleet warp.
We have 2 ships with Serpentis webs, so I believe those faction frigates are definitely not going to be moving much. And well,
Warp drive
here
active.
we go. The yeet has started. Sweet Poison 2 warping at about 0. Primary target will be the Macarial, and secondary targets will be the small frigates. If they decide to stay, that is. Okay, there is one succubus over there, and there's the second one, warped out. Actually, they're both... well, they're both gone, I believe. Oh well, anyway, let's yeet the Macarial. Now again, as I mentioned before, don't siege up immediately after you land, because, well, you're not going to do much damage to a target, and I wasted a lot of my damage there on the start, but never mind. Siege is off, implant at full power, and the Macarial got yeeted. Now, since we have a lot of nasty elites lurking around, let me burn away from the mission location. They have a lot of scramblers, and even if you have a lot of stabs, you have to be careful around this mission because they know to focus fire really hard, and you definitely do not want to get caught in this mess. So let me align towards the station. I have learned how to dock with timer, just in case I have to do it. I will dock with timer, but I think that's not going to be necessary. It's not as fast as the Macarial, so the whole docking process is a bit more, let's say, uncomfortable, but you can easily do it with this ship, not a big problem. And hopefully the whole team will be alright. I was lucky enough to land the furthest away. Usually I'm not the lucky one, usually I'm the one that gets thrown right in the middle of everything, but I guess this time it's a little bit different. Now here I did decide to dock with timer, and I'm thinking about it because I just have that feeling that something bad's about to happen. A nice good old local spike, and there could be perhaps 10 plus ships heading our way, so just in case if that happens, I'll be going straight to the station. Now, after a while, I did dock, but not with timer. The timer is over. The Macarial was a 3.6 billion ISK ship. Overall, a solid kill. And was a good, very good catch. There was a lot of salt in
Docking
local.
request
There was a
accepted.
lot of salt. And well, this was a pretty successful operation. Okay, well, let's go and yeet the next ship. Now I have scouted, and I think we have one Dominix in the mission. The Dominix was about, I would say, 80 to 90 kilometers from the gate. So
Undocking.
hopefully they will not move by the time I land. With the Macarial it's not a big issue because it goes around fast, but with this ship you have to account for the possibility of the target moving.
Warp drive active.
can be important. Now, with Dominix, if I miss a Dominix, it's not a big deal, but I would be very mad if I were to miss a faction Battleship, because a Dominix, you know, I can kill a Dominix in a camp or basically anywhere, but a faction Battleship might be a bit more difficult to catch, and that's why I try not to miss anything, but you know, sometimes it does happen. Now, which one of these pilots was the Dominix? I actually forgot. Oh well, anyway, we're about to find out when I warp to the mission. Okay, there is the Dominix. Let's warp. I will warp at 87 because the Dominix was at that distance from the gate. Before I go and launch my ship, I scout to find the perfect
Warp
warping.
drive active.
That's how I have the ship's location, and that way I can ensure that I warp as close as possible. Very important, especially with this ship where you have very short range blasters installed. With the Macarial I can land at 30 and still wreck the target, but with this ship I can't do that because blasters have much shorter range. And of course the speed is there is a big difference in speed. And looks like I did mess up, and yeah, I messed up big time. Well, looks like the Dominix actually moved closer, and yeah, obviously they are going to warp out. Well, this was a hilarious failure. The Dominix did decide to burn towards the mission, which is well, it happens, I guess.
Warp drive
But anyway,
active.
I would rather miss a Dominix than to miss a Vralsink or Macarial or something similar. And speaking of the Macarial, well, it will be time to undock this monster, and let's see what the first target will be. Now, you might be wondering, why am I throwing a Macarial at a Harby? Well, there is a very specific reason for doing this. That Harby is potentially a very expensive one.
Warp drive active.
The same pilots did drop B-types before in the past, and there's a chance that the same pilot still runs B-types, or perhaps they have upgraded to A-types. So in any case, there's a chance to get a lot of ISK. Now, of course, I land at the edge of the Scrambler range. Unfortunately, they're also moving with the micro warp drift, and it just looks like I'm not going to be able to scramble this target, and they have warped off to the station. So this is the second fail for today,
Under attack.
or third fail, I'm not really sure. So let me quickly go and warp out, and perhaps with a little bit of luck this Harby will come back, and
Warp drive active.
hopefully if we destroy the targets we will get some nice B-types. So I did have to reship into the Stratius because the Macarial just, I guess, was not lucky today, and we managed to destroy this ship. And now the moment of truth. Did this Harby carry B-types? Well, only one way to find out.
Warp drive active.
Let me warp to the asteroid belt. And let me cloak. Ignore the drones, I'm trying something new out. Not the final product with the Stratius, more on the Stratius when I decide to fly one. Working on the video, by the way. Will be out in couple hours, couple days, depends on when I decide to record, to record. Okay, let's take a look at the kill. Okay, 2.7 billion, and yes, a cursed B-type Harby. You know, you cannot make this up, honestly. Cursed and expensive at the same time. Well, I'm impressed. I am very impressed. Okay, so next target we have one Tempest Striker.
Warp drive active.
And this time I was the fleet commander, my friend had the criminal timer, and to avoid any mistake at the station it was safer for me to warp to the target. Now the Tempest Striker is a very unique ship to find. Honestly, I don't remember a lot of them in missions. And we landed. This was the closest warping that you could find because the Tempest is actually orbiting a little bit outside of basically any good warping position. So this was the closest point that I could get. At this distance, I'm not going to use barrage. I'll have to approach and then use the barrage, but I can use the gyro stabilizers. We're approaching our target. They did have a shield extender, but that's not going to be enough to stop two Macarials. Barrage is engaged and the Tempest has been blown up. Nice. Let's warp out. I would say let's cloak, but this time I don't have a cloaking device on this ship. I started to use the classic DPS build a lot more often, mostly because now I can safely dock with timers, so that's not a big problem anymore. However, it's still risky. My internet is horrible, but in some cases I like to have that 16,000 DPS with the barrage. And when I land, I will align to the station. With the micro warp drive on, of course. And let's take a look at the kill. Well, 6.66 billion. Nice. Yeetus Maximus, as I like to say. This was really solid kill. Fully integrated Tempest Striker, and it almost looked like the build that I used on the Tempest Striker. So perhaps this pilot was inspired by one of my builds. I used to run a lot of integrations on my older ships. Nowadays, I actually kind of stopped completely with the integrations. Maybe the tanky ones have them, I have to check out, but most of my current ships don't have integrations anymore. So with that being said, I really hope that you enjoyed this little run with the Macarial and with the Megatron. Overall, both ships are good, both ships are fantastic. And I started to really enjoy flying both of them. Of course, they are a little bit different, but at the same time they also share a lot of similarities. So if you like the Macarial, go get the Macarial. If you like the Megatron Striker, go get the Megatron Striker. If you like both of them, well, get both of them, because both ships are really fantastic boats. So with that being said, I love you all, hope that you enjoyed, stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.